Hi guys, hello and welcome to Jazz Across the Pond. Jazz Interviews Reimagined, a brand new and a very exciting bringing together of two great nations. It's jazz talking like you've never seen or heard it before.
Hi, this is American jazz saxophonist Randy Scott, all the way from Detroit, Michigan, and you're watching me on Jazz Across the Pond with the Jazz Cat and Mr. G. Hope you enjoy.
One. Well, what an incredible track, a toe-tapping, inspiring piece of music from the most amazing album. The album is Elevation. We're going to be elevating you to a new height tonight because we've got the man himself, full of affection. Any more words can be used? I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, what can we say about this week's very, very special guest? Well, he's a professional musician, record producer, composer. His fourth CD entitled Breathe remained in the top 40 nationally for 5 consecutive months. An incredible, talented saxophonist musician all the way from Detroit, Michigan. Ladies and gentlemen, Jazz Across the Pond are very, very proud to say a very hello and a big hello to the man himself, Mr. Randy Scott. Hi, guy. How you doing?
I'm well. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, and thank you so much for having me on your show. I am so grateful.
Not at all. It is our pleasure to have you as a guest on our show. It really is.
Awesome.
Right. Okay. Let's get straight down to the big pick of the bones.
Yeah.
We have a great research team that every week they go, can we have a week off? We go, not yet. We've got another great interview. And so they scurry off and they do all their work and that. So what can we say about it? Well, what can you tell us about your early days, your family? Did you come from a musical family? When were you first introduced to the saxophone? And who were your jazz heroes?
Oh, great question. So my mother, first of all, I have no musicians in my family. And
Wow.
my brother, my younger brother is, but no one else in the family. My mother was a huge, huge fan of Grover Washington Jr. And she had every single record he had ever made. And I was actually born in Baltimore, Maryland, then lived for about 10 years just outside of Philadelphia. And I got a straight A report card one year. And my reward, because I'd been listening to all these Grover Washington records, was to go to one of his concerts. So that hooked me. It was originally my mother. Then it led to that concert, caused me to want to play. Started about 11, 12 years old. And then I got another straight A report card. And my gift was to meet Grover in person.
Oh, wow.
So we met. He was filming a Red Cross commercial. And I went there with my horn. Why I took my horn, I have no idea. I was not going to play it. But he ended up using my horn in the commercial. We became really good friends. And we were friends from the age of 12 or 13 all the way until he passed away. So every time I was in any city that he was in, he would ask me to come up and play. And he was my mentor, my friend. The entire reason why I even ended up in Michigan, Detroit, Michigan, got a scholarship to Michigan State. I had another scholarship to Berkeley and Boston. And he said, you really need to focus on classical because that is the foundation for your technique, your sound, and all of that. And at the time, Michigan State was a really great school for classical saxophone. So that's how I ended up here, and it was all because of Grover, my hero.
There you go.
Wow. That's
an amazing story.
Well,
Thank
I know
you.
that Kevin and myself are massive Grover Washington fans and that.
Definitely.
Wine like.
Definitely.
In my days, I used to DJ in the nightclub, and I used to play Mr. Magic and that, and the floor used to just pack and that, you know.
Awesome.
Kevin, question.
Well, let me start off by saying, Randy, it's a pleasure to finally
Thank
meet
you.
you. You and I have traded messages over the years, and as you know, you've been a regular on the Smooth Jazz train since our beginning back in 2011.
Yes, thank you.
And they all love you. They love you.
Thank you
Now,
so much.
Roger and I have also watched you grow and develop over the years, and we couldn't be happier for you with all the successes that you've realized. You've earned them. It's well-deserved, and we're very pleased for you.
Thank you.
Now, you mentioned Grover. Other than Grover, in other interviews or in your bios, you've mentioned that you've also taken a lot of inspiration from John Coltrane, Kirk Whalum, Stevie Wonder,
Yes.
Big Six, the Yellow Jackets, Jonathan Butler, Bob James, Fred Hammond, Sting, and of course your brother Randy Scott.
Yes.
Now that's a very impressive list, but I want to ask you about two of them. Now,
sure.
Tell us a little bit more about your brother, because obviously he's been an influence, and then tell us one of your. And the second thing would be tell us one of your favorite Grover Washington Jr. stories.
Oh, okay. So my younger brother is a keyboardist, producer, vocalist, and he's just amazing. I mean, he is so amazing, and he and I worked very closely together on my very first few records. And as far, I think the second part of your question, favorite Grover Washington story. Oh,
Yeah.
I do have one. So I was recording a record in a nearby studio just outside of Detroit. Grover came in town and had a big concert. My parents went, but I had already, before I knew about the concert, I booked the studio time and had musicians there and all of that. So I'm in the studio during the concert. Um, just before Grover walked on stage, my parents went backstage, and he says to them, "Where's the boy?" And I said, "Well," and they said, "Well, he's in the studio recording." And he said, "Call him on the phone." So he gets on the phone with me. I'm at the studio, and he says, "Why aren't you here?" I said, "Well, I am so sorry." I said, "I'm so sorry. I got this recording session. I booked it in advance." Blah, blah, blah. He said, "You need to get here and bring your horn." So of course you can't tell
You
Grover
can't say
no.
no.
I cut the session right there, sent everybody home, went really quickly to where he was, and ended up playing um, a few songs with him that night, and it was just so great. It was so, and I miss him so much. But that's probably one of the best stories I have for Grover.
That's a
Uh,
great
our,
story.
our our last interview was with Tom Braxton. When I asked him that question, he was talking about, said, "Tell me your favorite story about Wayman Tisdale."
Oh wow!
And Roger and I nearly died. He said he got on a plane with Wayman. He said, and I went on first, he said, and I'm finding my seat. Just think, next thing you know, I hear the speaker over the plane go, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Flight 798. Tonight's food will be soul food, and we'll be serving." He said, "That sounds like," he said, "that sounds like Wayman." He goes, "Wait a minute, it is Wayman." So, but your
Nice.
story's good too. I love that.
Thank
But you
you.
made it. But you made it. Did you get on stage?
Oh, absolutely,
Okay, all
absolutely.
right, good stuff. Roger.
Amazing stuff. So now, Andy, while teaching music locally in Detroit, you also you write songs, you record, you're producing, but you worked in a variety with artists, especially in the gospel field. So
Yes.
our followers would like to know more about your strong beliefs in religion and being able to mix your passion, your love for religion, with your mix and love for jazz.
I'd
How
love.
combined?
Listen, I love that question, and the reason I love that question is because my literally, and I tell my students this, I tell the audiences this whenever I get an opportunity, but every single thing that I have that is good in my life has come from God, and I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. And a lot of people say, well, you've been doing this for a long time, and it just doesn't make sense that you are just now finding some success at it. And I told him, I said, it's all divine order. I had to, God had to bring me through some things to create a humility in me and an appreciation in me before blessing me as much as he has. And so I've always grown up in church for as long as I can remember. I was involved in church. And then when I started playing music in church and, really allowing God to speak through me and the instrument, it wasn't until then that I could honestly say I was playing for my soul. And there's a difference between, I know I know a lot of guys that can play anything and they can play fast and they can play, but there are very few that can move you spiritually and emotionally through what they do. And so that's why I love Kirk Whalum so much.
Absolutely.
Because his ties to the church and his upbringing with music and the church he can play, although he's a technician, he can play anything. He can play three notes and they will be the sweetest three notes you've ever heard in your life because he's playing from his soul. And so that is something that I've always aspired to because I really want to be a light of God and of what I believe. And I wanted to speak through the instrument. And so I'm so grateful for that question because I really feel like every single thing that I've done is centered around my spirituality and my closeness to God.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Indeed.
Well, Randy, people may say it took so long for you to realize success. I've been listening to your music from day one, and I think you've been successful from the start. But I think a lot of people might try to identify with the beginning of your success with your son, your record deal with Trippin' and Rhythm Records back in 2011.
Correct.
And that is an incredible company with an amazing list of young and some older jazz superstars, including, are you ready for this, Roger?
Go on.
Paul Hardcastle, Cindy Bradley, Special Effects, Nick Coleone, Skinny Hightower, Kayla Waters, Nicholas Cole, Ollie Silk, Gary Honor, Lynn Rountree, Down to the Bone, LeBron, Katie Waters, and Julian Vaughn, just to mention a few. Now, between Roger and I, nearly all of those people are friends of ours on Facebook.
Nice.
So we know you're surrounded with good people.
Absolutely.
But how did your partnership with Trippin' and Rhythm take place, number one? And how has it's an amazing team of talented musicians. How have they impacted your direction of your music?
Great question. So back in 2010, 11-ish, I had produced, I think, the majority, or at least 8 songs, I believe, on Tim Bowman's record. And at the time, 7. At the time, Tim was signed to Trippin' and Rhythm as well. And I think, and because that's a great question, but I think my involvement with the production on that record caught the attention of the label, and they invited me to perform in Dubai. Tim went on that trip as well, and that's how it all started. And then I would say not long after leaving the stage in Dubai, I was offered the record deal with them. So that's kind of how it started. But there's so many amazing artists on the label, and I literally listen to every one of them for inspiration, because they're all so great. And I'm just humbled to be a part of that mix. So, and I like, I don't know, I like each artist on the label for different reasons, but I absolutely am grateful for the connection and for the ability to be on that label.
Well, what we're going to do now, because believe it or not, there may be a few people in the United Kingdom who will be watching this going, well, I don't really know much about this guy now. So we've already played a track. We're going to play another track. We're going to take a very short interval from this wonderful interview. We're going to play another track from your fabulous album, Elevation.
Awesome.
Right, which we've read. I think this would make a perfect stocking filler. Coming up to Christmas, I think this would, for any jazz love, I think this should be included in there. I think Santa Claus, Father Christmas should include that. So anyway, the track we're going to play now is the wonderful Daydreams. And then we'll be back with the wonderful Randy. We're going to continue this great conversation. We've got a lot more to talk about. So stay with us here on Jazz Across the Pond and have a listen to this fabulous track. This is Daydreams, featuring the wonderful Cindy Bradley. We'll be straight back with you.
Welcome back to Jazz Across the Pond, Jazz Interviews Reimagined with the Jazz Cat and Mr. G. You've been listening to Daydreams featuring Miss Cindy Bradley from Mr. Randy Scott's 2020 project, Elevation. Well, Randy, congratulations on the huge success of Elevation, which resulted in your first two #1 hits on Billboard with Joyride and then the title track, Elevation itself. It's been a long time coming.
Yes.
And I know capturing Billboard's top spot must have been a thrill the first time around. But to get two #1s on a single project is a rare accomplishment.
Yes.
So after all the years of hard work and dedication, describe to our viewers how this accomplishment of topping Billboard twice on one project, so thus far, right?
Right,
That's right. You've got to.
Yes.
How has that motivated you moving forward?
Oh man. Well, first I have to say I am just so grateful for that. I can't describe to you the feeling, and I'm just so grateful. But the motivation behind after having those two go #1, the motivation is to really just go above and beyond on the next project, the new one. And I have to admit I feel a little bit of pressure to outdo this latest record. So I started, I've already started working on it, and I hate everything I've been writing. So I'm just constantly writing and writing. So hopefully something will stick very soon. And for me, it goes in waves, like 1 month or 2 months, I can just write every day and everything is coming out great. And then other times at the bottom of the dip in the roller coaster, it's just, I'm sitting down in the studio like this, twiddling my thumbs. So the motivation will be to just put out the best possible product for all of you.
Well, Randy, one of the things that I've said to you years ago when you started to show some tremendous success, and it was about, I think it was around 2012. I remember sending you a message saying, just stay true to yourself.
Yes.
Stay on the path you're on. You don't need to change anything. Just be true to yourself. And I think you've done that. And I think even with the success of the Billboard charts, I think you'll continue. Just be yourself and you'll be fine.
That means a lot. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, that means a lot. Thank you.
Now, I'm going to pick up, and Kevin's not going to go into this. I love reminiscing with those stories. And there was the wonderful producer, David Foster, in his autobiography, The Hitman, and Chicago, who had 10 years of fabulous hits, all the rest of it, and suddenly had a dip in their career for about 4 or 5 years, no hits, all the rest of it. So they went to David Foster, and this is in his autobiography. They went to David Foster and they said, would you mind producing our next album? And it's called Chicago 16. So obviously the last 15 were okay, and he went, okay. And he looked at all their music and he looked at all of it and he went, right. And he put them all in the bin. And he went, they're not good enough. He said, and literally Chicago 16 with You're My Inspiration, You're a Hard Habit to Break, all the rest of it, that was thanks to David Foster. And it was because something there. And it's a true story. And apparently he's just binned, and they've been writing all these songs, and he looked, he went, they're no good. Bin them, put them straight in the bin. So anyway, so having that level of it. Anyway, so Randy, you served as a saxophonist in your early days as in a band with the guitarist, as we've already alluded to, the wonderful Tim Bowman, who I must add, was a guest of mine on Jazz Moods about 2 years ago. And he phoned me from Detroit, and we had a good 45-minute chat, and he's a fabulous guy.
Yes, he is.
There you were on his band, performing on his band and that. And then am I right in saying on your wonderful album, Breathe, he was on that album there?
Yes.
Hey, see, they don't call me the Jazz Cat for no reason.
I see.
I do my homework. So
wow.
There he is. He's appeared on there. So my question for our followers is, please tell our followers more about the working with Tim's band, and then the ultimate decision, because it must be very, when you're in a band, you've got that safety net. You're in Tim's band, and so you want that decision to break free and go solo. How did that happen? That decision, that momentous decision.
Well, I'm actually still a part of his band. So we still travel quite a bit together. Actually, I've been with him for, I guess since 2010, 9. It's been a long time. Um, to be on my own, it's a completely different feeling, and it's to your point. It's like being a side musician. There is a safety net. The microphone is not in front of you, um, and you're going according to their lead. As a leader of a band, it's just a whole nother thing, and it can be daunting, it can be intimidating, but I absolutely love it. I really do. I've got a really fabulous music director. His name is Demetrius Neighbors, who has his own recordings out.
Yep.
And just after meeting with him and putting the show together, it's really not. It goes from that intimidating factor to actually being fun, and I really, really enjoy it. I really do.
Well, Demetrius hasn't done a very bad job with Althea Renee either, I have to admit. So
Indeed.
You're definitely in good hands. Roger actually interviewed Althea.
Oh,
That
nice.
would've been what, 8 months ago, I guess, Roger?
Yep.
Something like that.
Nice.
Well, Randy, anyway, I want to talk a little bit about a few of the other things that you've done. We've already talked about you being a composer and a performer and a producer.
Sure.
In 2008, you produced 4 songs for Vicki Wainen's CD, Woman to Woman, and you also worked with her on a single, How I
Yes.
Got Over, which
Yes.
debuted at #1 on Billboard. In 2009, you produced 7 songs, as we mentioned, for Tim Bowman for his debut project, self-titled Tim Bowman, which became the #1 record in the United States on multiple smooth jazz charts.
Yes.
So your track record as composer, producer, and session player and recording artist has been stellar. But you also have another gig that we've kind of mentioned in passing. You've been involved with the Southfield, Michigan public school system for 26 years.
Yeah.
If you would, share with our viewers about your years working in the public school system and how rewarding has it been working with the public schools?
So after college and being a professional musician for a little while, I kept getting asked to take these long-term substitute teaching positions in music. I kept fighting it, like I didn't want to do it. And the superintendent of the school system it was a friend, and he kept asking us, and I would take it. And lo and behold, I ended up at the school I'm at currently for about a year. And I'm thinking, okay, I'll do this for a year and then I'll just leave. Well, that year turned into 26 years. And
long year.
Yes. And I was fighting it for so long. When I just actually dove into it, I began to love it. And what I love most about it, I'm at the middle. I've taught every grade from kindergarten through college. What I love most about middle school, which is grades 6 through 8,
right.
Is they're not so young that you have to baby them. They're not so old that you can't mold and influence them. And that's why I love it. It's because I can mold and influence beyond the music. I mean, the music is the hook, especially with me playing professional and they see me doing these things. It's the hook. But really what I'm ultimately trying to teach them are life lessons and how to be professional. We have a saying, to be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late, and to be late is unacceptable. We have another saying about excuses. Excuses are tools of incompetence used to build monuments of nothingness, and those who use them seldom amount to anything. So I'm instilling these things hopefully in them, and it is also my way of ministering to them without really talking about religion. So that's why I love it so much.
I'm going to write those 2 quotes down. I like those. Just carry on.
Sure.
Well, Roger, I thought you and I both originated those, didn't we? I mean,
I think we got the patent on those, yes.
Great advice.
Okay, so you've been awarded, apart from everything now, I mean, our followers, listeners must be going, so what else has this man done? It's just incredible. Well,
Oh
we can
man.
carry on because we're going to surpass ourselves. You've also been awarded 2 gold records, 2 platinum records, and 1 multi-platinum record for your work on Gospel Wow compilation CD and recordings with Grammy Award winners Kirk Franklin. Now, Kirk Franklin, here we are. We're just gone into October, and on my show, the Jazz Moods on a Wednesday night, which I play your music here in England, and every Wednesday night I was playing a cover of the Earth, Wind and Fire classic September, and we had Brian Bromberg, we had Alan Sams, we had Philip Sayce, and we had Kirk Franklin's version. Now,
Nice.
Kirk Franklin's version, it is worth, if you ever get onto YouTube, tap in Kirk Franklin September, watch the video. It is mind-blowing. And
I've seen
love
it.
the bit at the end where the late Morris White comes up, he parks the car and walks up and sits in the studio, and he's bouncing up and down with total enthusiasm, and it's amazing. So watch that one. Anyway, so I'm digressing. With Fred Hammond, you have got a bachelor's degree in musical education from the Michigan State University and a master's degree from the Wayne State University. I'm gonna have to have a drink. This is getting on. Accomplishments of the face, and you put it down to your belief in God. Now, a truly incredible album. You've alluded to a little bit because we're talking about the wonderful elevation, but you're saying now your next album. So what's in store now? What's coming up next for you?
Oh man. Well, working on this next record, I've always wanted to do a Christmas record, and I have not done. And it's funny because like around this time I started, and I don't know, something happens, and I just don't have. And I guess the thing is I need to start working on it in the like spring and through the summer, and I just can't get there. I need to like put a Christmas tree up and make it cold make it cold down here or something. But I really want to do a Christmas record. Somebody told me once, they said, you really only have to do one and just, use it every year. So I'm hoping to do that, but also working on the new record too. So those are my two goals.
Right. Well, I'm going to say a little thing. Michael Bublé, his Christmas album has been #1 in Australia for 11 years consecutively. And in an interview, which we didn't conduct, we would love to, he's sitting there, he's going, what, do Australians lose their copy? The next year they go and buy another copy. Because why is it 11 years it's been #1? And he's got come January, they just put it out. So, and then come November, they go, we better buy another copy. And that's what I do. But anyway, you're talking about your wonderful bit there. I'm going to relay a story. Do you remember in 83, 84, there was an English band called Frankie Goes to Hollywood?
Yes.
Okay, and they came out with 2 Tribes and Relax, all the rest of it.
Yes.
So when I'm from Torquay, a little seaside town here in England, and there's 7 nightclubs, big nightclubs, and of course it's very competitive. And during the height of the summer, all the records, all the nightclubs, all they were playing was Frankie Goes to Hollywood. You'd go from Relax into 2 Tribes, back into Relax, back into 2 Tribes. And people were just getting bored of it. So I went to the owner of the nightclub. You'll like this one. I went to Kevin doesn't even know this story. I went to it was about July time. And I said, we're going to do something different because every nightclub is playing Frankie Goes to Hollywood. And he went, what do you say? And I went, let's do a Christmas party. And literally, I'm dressed as Father Christmas. I got Bermuda shorts on, and we decorated the whole place with Christmas trees, all the rest of it. And you know what? That year, we won because everybody was getting bored with the Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Wow.
And we were doing something different.
Right. Wow.
So it can be done.
It can be done.
Randy, every year I definitely do one show for Christmas, but I've been known to do a Christmas Eve show and a Christmas show, and I've been doing that for years.
Wow.
So I guarantee you get an album out, we're going to spin it.
I appreciate that. It's coming. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah. Can I ask, will you be doing, because there are hundreds of smooth jazz Christmas albums, and no disrespect, but a lot of them, it's another version of Jingle Bells or...
and that's part of my holdup, is I'm trying to do something that hasn't been done.
Exactly. Well, this is what Chris Sandring did on his Christmas album. When you listen to it, you go, that's clever. He did a twist on Christmas, and it was a very clever album. So... There we are.
I got it.
Right. Kevin, I know you want to ask a question.
Yeah, I've got another one for you, Randy. One of the first business decisions after receiving your master's degree was to establish your own music production company and recording studio.
Yes.
Now, over the course of the last 31 interviews, Randy and I have heard time and again the importance of controlling as much of your production process of your music as possible, as well as owning your own compositions.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you is sort of like when and who shared the importance of controlling your destiny with you?
Ooh, my father. So my father he's managed me since I went professional in 1992. I actually won, there's a television show that was very popular years ago called Showtime at the Apollo.
Yes.
And I won three shows and closed the season. I was supposed to go back and that they were having financial issues with the Apollo Theater. But right after I got off the last show, I was offered a record deal with Warner Brothers. And they offered me this huge signing bonus and all of that. And my father, being in business for so long, read that contract, shared it with our attorney, and said, "Listen, you don't want to sign this." It was horrible, and they wanted 100% of my publishing, and they wanted way too much. And at the time, I didn't understand that. I'm young and dumb. I didn't understand, but it was a couple years later that I really understood. And so he's been instrumental in directing my path as far as the business thing goes, and I'm just really grateful for that.
Brilliant.
For sure.
Well, I mean, a few months ago, we interviewed the wonderful Bob Baldwin, and he alluded, because he's known as the Ray Charles of the industry, and he owns something like 95% of his stuff. So that is definitely the way to go, and we admire for that. So,
and Bob I just did a show with Bob as in his band. We were in Toledo 2 weeks ago.
Wow. Bob is great.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
And Lady Luck is not, Lady Time is not on our side, unfortunately, and she's ticking away fast and furiously. Now, where can our followers? We've already played 2 tracks. We're going to finish the interview with another great track, which we'll talk about in a moment. But where can our followers buy, download, or purchase your wonderful albums?
Anywhere that they get music. It should be everywhere. Apple Music, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you get music, Amazon. It's everywhere. And let me add also that all of the proceeds from all of my records go towards feeding the children. That's my little girl, my little boy, Morgan and Jordan. They live right here in my home. So make sure you get a record.
I love it.
Well, Randy, I know that the pandemic has kind of ravaged the venues for live music, but do you have any concerts coming up, and where can our viewers find out where you're going to be in the rest of this year and maybe even into 22?
Yeah, I definitely have shows coming up, and off the top of my head, I just drew a blank.
Where can they find it? Where can they find that information?
On my website is randyscottonline.com. And it's important to put the online after my name, or else you'll see someone that doesn't look like me. But randyscottonline.com for sure.
Right.
I did find that myself. We're going to be finishing the interview off now with another track from the wonderful Elevation. I mean, we could have picked any one of your albums. We've got the whole collection. They're fabulous. But we're going to finish up with another track, Elevation, and we're going to play the wonderful Blackhead, Joyride. Now, very quickly, what was the backstory behind that track there?
So that was the one track that I did with Michael Broning, and the amazing Michael Broning.
He is incredible.
Indeed, and he really captured the whole Grover Washington vibe with that track. And it was just easy to be he allows me to be myself and do what I do. Just gave me the track and said, go. And out came this great song. And so I'm very grateful to Michael for this track.
Kevin, what position on this one?
Beg your pardon?
What position on the Billboard is this track?
Oh, that hit number one. What are you talking about? Joyride? Yeah,
There you go.
Joyride hit number one. Yeah.
First single, yeah.
Yep,
Ladies
yep.
and gentlemen, you've been watching the wonderful, wonderful Randy Scott. We can't thank you enough for joining us, taking time
Thank
out of the
you.
day to come and join us. Thank you so much. Always let us know of anything. We're happy to promote anything that you've got new albums coming up.
Thank you.
It's been a
Thank you so
great
much.
pleasure to have you with our show with us, sir.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so grateful. Thank you,
Our
guys.
pleasure. Our pleasure.
Say goodnight, Kevin.
Good night, Kevin.
Next week, it's looking like we're going to have Mr. Lynn Roundtree come and join us for an interview. So we're looking forward to that one there. From everybody here from Jazz Across the Pond, Jazz Interview Reimagined, stay safe, keep calm, and let's just be all together again next week. For everybody here, good night.